I don't know if you guys can see this, but we have a ghost staring at us through the window. We'll see how long she lasts. Hey guys, welcome back to another wellness update on the porch. Today, I'm going to be chatting about some things that have changed since I have added carbs back to my life, since I have switched from keto to more of a high carb, low fat diet. Before we get into all that, I want to say thank you to AG1 for sponsoring the video today. AG1 has been a staple in our household for over 3 years now. It is a all-in-one daily health drink that includes vitamins, minerals, probiotics, prebiotics, functional mushrooms, just a whole bunch of things that can fill in some different gaps in your nutrition, support your immune system, support your energy, support your gut microbiome. And it's really exciting. They actually have added some new flavors. They've had the original flavor for forever now, and they have added new flavors. So I have tried so far the berry. I want to try all of them, but I'm trying to be patient and not open all of the packages at once because, once you open it, you want to use it pretty quickly. This is the citrus flavor, and there's also a tropical flavor. So I've tried the berry, and it is really good. It has this nice subtle berry flavor in there that is delicious. If AG1 sounds like something you want to try out, you can try it out risk-free. They have a 90-day money-back guarantee. Just head to my link. I have a clickable link down in the description, or scan the QR code here on the screen. And with your first subscription order, if you use my link or QR code, you can get a free welcome kit that's worth $76. It has a bottle of their vitamin D K2 drops in there, as well as a pack of 5 of the travel packs that are great for when you're on the go. My link is drinkag1.com/indigo. Thanks again to AG1 for sponsoring the video today. Now let's jump into the things that have changed since I have added carbs back to my life. And I do want to say here at the beginning that, of course, there are always lots of different factors at play. Adding carbs to my life is not the only thing that has changed in the last couple of years. I've added red light therapy. I've healed my gut, although I will say that adding carbs back to my diet was a big piece to healing my gut. When I came out of almost carnivore, ketovore diet, my gut health was in a really, really rough place. Some people have said, well, maybe you were on carnivore and ketovore and that healed your gut and then you were able to add back carbs. That's not how it happened with me. When I was at the end of my ketovore journey, my gut health was kind of at its worst, and I had to add back carbs and do some other things like antimicrobials and adding probiotics, and that's what healed my gut. So adding carbs in was part of the process of healing my gut, but the gut healing itself is definitely a factor to these things that have changed in my diet. Also, addressing nutrient deficiencies, that's another factor, one of those things that has happened in the last few years. The first thing that I have noticed a change with is my sleep. My sleep has definitely improved since I have added carbs back to my diet. And I will say that adding red light therapy at the beginning of 2025 also improved my sleep, but I saw an improvement even further when I went from eating about 200 grams of carbs to about 400 grams of carbs per day. I saw a really drastic increase in my deep sleep and my restorative sleep, and just overall my sleep improved. I also noticed that I started falling asleep a lot more quickly. It used to be that I would lie in bed and kind of drift off, and then I'd have to get up and go to the bathroom again. And then, it just took a while to fall asleep. Now I feel like I fall asleep really, really quickly, and I don't usually have to get up again and go to the bathroom. I just lay down and, within 5 to 10 minutes, I am out. Another thing that I have noticed, and this has been within the last year, and I have been adding carbs back in for a year and a half or so, or even a little bit more. And so this is something that I started noticing within a year of adding carbs. And this is something that is a very slow going process. So it took a while to notice. And that is my toenails. I have a toenail issue that I have always called toenail psoriasis because from my research and the testing that I've done, that seems like the thing that makes the most sense. Basically, my toenails disconnect from my toenail bed. They get really thick and kind of chalky, like underneath at the toenail bed, and they just kind of peel off. It's gross. It's not fun, but for the past about 15 years, maybe 14 to 15 years, I have had this issue where my toenails, there will be times where I have no toenails at all. They disconnect all the way down to the base of the toenail, and it's very unpleasant. Sometimes they've been really inflamed. Other times, I'll have half of a toenail. But for the last about 14 years, I have not had, there's cats over here being crazy now. I have not had a normal looking big toe toenail on either of my feet. Like, there'll be various times where I have no toenail at all, or I'll have half a toenail and it'll kind of grow a little bit and then it'll disconnect and then, I'll have to clip it off and all of that. I currently, after 14 years, I now have one big toenail that looks normal. It has grown in all the way and it's not disconnecting from the toenail bed, and it looks like a normal toenail. I have not been able to paint my toenails for like 14 years because they were just a disaster. I would try to wear, closed-toed shoes as much as possible because they just were weird. I now have a big toenail that I could paint if I wanted to. Now, my toenails are not perfect. Not all of them are grown in normally again, but after 14 years, I did not think that I would ever have a normal looking big toenail again. So to have that is really, really encouraging that I'm on the right track. I've made some progress in my overall health, that something is happening and I'm able to have more normal toenails. Now, my other big toenail is about 3/4 of the way grown in and it's still a little weird, but I'm encouraged. I didn't think I would start seeing that kind of improvement in my toenails again. I'd kind of just given up on the idea of having normal toenails. Next thing that has changed, and this was absolutely shocking to me, blood sugar regulation. When I was on keto, and even when I was, at 100 grams of carbs and 200 grams of carbs, I felt like I had to play like a game of numbers, and I had to tiptoe really carefully around carbs in order not to have my blood sugar spike or stay high for a long time after a meal. And I use CGMs. I shared a lot of that with you guys, and I just had to be a whole lot more careful. And I kind of had this idea in my mind, I can't have more than this amount of carbs in a meal or else it'll spike too high, or I can't have, naked carbs like fruit by itself or starch by itself, or else it's going to spike really high. Or I have to be really careful with the types of carbs that I eat. It used to be that sweet potatoes in particular would spike my blood sugar a lot higher than other things. White rice is another one that, it just would spike my blood sugar way higher than other things. And it was like I was playing this game of numbers. It felt like that in order to manage my blood sugar, I had to like micromanage it. Since I have increased my carbohydrates, and I think this is absolutely key, lowered my fat, I have found that I am now at a place where I can eat what feels like any number of carbs from any source and my blood sugar stays regulated. There are still certain carbs that raise my blood sugar a little higher than others, but it is extremely rare for me to see my blood sugar spike over 140 after a meal, even after a meal of dried dates and figs. Like, sometimes I will eat a meal that is dried dates and figs, and my blood sugar maybe will go up to 140 and then come right back down. And then when I eat other meals that are, more mixed with protein and a little bit of fat and, starch and fruit and different things like that, my blood sugar rarely goes up above 120. There are times where I'll eat a meal that has 50, 60, 70, even 100 grams of carbohydrates, and my blood sugar hardly spikes at all. Of course, it goes up a little bit and then it comes right back down and is usually back down to baseline at that 2-hour mark easily. So I just feel completely free from that game of numbers, that need to micromanage things, as long as I have my fat on the lower end, and it's usually around 30 grams of fat per day. If I keep it there, My body can handle any amount of carbohydrates from basically any source that I throw at it. I am a mom, I have a farm, I have a lot going on in my life, so the fewer things that I have to micromanage, the better. The last thing that I want to chat about that has changed since going from low carb keto to high carb low fat is that I don't feel like I'm on as extreme of a diet. And I really want to explain this because on paper, what I'm doing right now is really similar to keto, except that I have switched the fat macro and the carb macro. So I'm eating around 30 grams of fat per day, whereas I used to, when I was on keto, maybe eat around 30 grams of carbohydrates per day, and then, made up the bulk in fat. Now I'm eating the 30 grams of fat per day and making up the bulk of my energy intake in carbohydrates. My protein has pretty much stayed the same. It's gone down a little bit since being keto, but it's pretty similar. So on paper, it kind of looks like it's the same kind of extreme, just on a different end of the scale. But for me, it doesn't feel as extreme because when you are on keto and you put in the work to become keto adapted and get into ketosis, going away from that for any length of time is very detrimental and it really sets you back. You can get kicked out of ketosis and it can be a real trigger, like it can really trigger cravings to eat something that's off keto, and it can be really easy to start spiraling. There's a lot more of a on the wagon, off the wagon, at least that's what I experienced when I was keto. With the switch to high carb, low fat, I don't have that same kind of triggering or the propensity to spiral. I can eat a higher fat meal if I feel like it, and it doesn't send me into any kind of a binge purge type cycle or anything like that. So it's actually very freeing to feel like I could pretty much eat anything and it's not going to trigger me to do anything that I don't want to do. Social meals are a whole lot easier. I don't have that, I need to not take one bite or else I'm going to eat something I don't want to eat or, go off the rails or anything like that. My body just does not have that same reaction eating high carb, low fat as it did eating low carb, high fat. So those are a few changes that I have noticed. If you have made a similar switch, I'd love to hear your insights as well. If there's other things that have changed. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this wellness update. I hope you guys are all doing great and I will see you again in the next video.